Welcome back to my kitchen. It is definitely a kitchen week. Although yesterday was super beautiful, but I was under the weather. And then today is also not too bad. So I do plan on getting outside and getting some sunshine and just some fresh air, especially after all the cold we've had. But today we're in the kitchen. We're gonna go over making a kitchen spices cough syrup. So earlier this week, we went over where to store your herbs, how to store them, and how long. And today we're gonna actually use a recipe that might use up some of those herbs in case they're close to expiring or you have a lot and you might not be able to use all of it. So we're going to use that, and it's also going to benefit because it will be able to be used for, coughs or when you're feeling under the weather. So let's get to it. So this cough syrup recipe is actually from the Herbarium, which I am a part of from the Herbal Academy. The link is below if you want to check that out. They have lots of intensives on cold and flu and hormones and just all kinds of things that you can learn about as part of the Herbarium membership. And I love this because they actually have recipes in there as well that you can use. And when these are just common kitchen spices that you can use, it's even better because most people have those. So today we're going to make a kitchen spices cough syrup, and I'm going to use some of the herbs up that I have. So Tuesday we talked about this organic thyme leaves that I had stored in my cabinet, and that is actually the dated 2019. I know, I'm totally embarrassed about that. I cannot believe how long some of my spices have been in there. So when I get my sense of smell back, I'm definitely going through, because just by looking at this, I think it's probably past its prime. It doesn't have that vibrant green, so I'm thinking it's probably past that and it's going to be composted. So I'm not going to use this one. We are going to use some thyme leaf powder. You can tell that that is green. Well, it looks green, hopefully, to you. You can actually use this recipe. You can use all thyme if you want to, or you can mix in some demulcent herbs like licorice root that I have and plantain that I have from my garden. If you'll notice, this actually has the date on it, which is 11/9/23. So this is when I freeze dried this. So this is still good. This will be good for at least November of this year. So I will definitely need to be checking this and using this up. I need to use it in salves or teas or whatever it might be so that I don't have to compost it. So just a good rule of thumb, keep a spreadsheet, keep notes, or somehow know when you need to use things up so you don't waste your herbs that you're either harvesting or buying from a store. So this kitchen spices cough syrup. So we're going to use a 1/3 cup of dried or 1/2 cup fresh thyme. So I do not have the fresh, I have the dried, but I'm not going to use a total of 1/3. I am going to use a combination of the thyme, the licorice, and the plantain. And then I'm going to add, I'm not going to add that anise, I'm going to add fennel. I do have fennel. And then we're going to have water, and we're going to add 2 cups of honey, because 2 cups of honey will actually give this syrup a shelf life of 1 year. If you add 1/2 cup, it's only going to be good for 3 weeks. So if you knew you were going to use it up really quickly, then I would use a 1/2 cup. But because no one in our house is super sick or anything right now, I'm just going to use 2 cups of honey so that I know that it's going to stay good for at least a year. The first thing we're going to do is get 1 cup of water boiling. And while we're waiting on that to finish, we are going to go ahead and get our herbs measured. Let's go ahead and get our herbs measured. This is my 1/3 cup, and I'm just going to fill this up with the herbs. Let's see here. I'm going to do about a tablespoon of, because this is thyme powder, let's do just a little bit over a tablespoon. I don't want to do too much because that is a powder, so it's going to be a little bit stronger, I believe. All right, so we're going to put some licorice root in here, and then we're going to top that off with some of the plantain from my garden. Or I should say from my yard. You all more than likely have plantain growing in your yard. Okay, so there we have our herbal mixture that we're going to add to our water whenever that starts boiling. And then we are going to steep that for about 20 to 40 minutes covered. So we have our water boiling, so we're just going to turn that off, move it to the side. and add our herbs. So we'll just add our herbs to that. Give it a quick little stir. Okay. And then we're going to cover this. We're going to set a timer for, it says 20 to 40 minutes. So we're going to split that in half and we'll do 30. Stove had other ideas. I almost forgot the fennel. So we're going to add 1/8 of a cup, which is 2 tablespoons to the infusion. So let's go ahead and measure that out. I'm just going to use this measuring cup to hold it for right now. So there we have 1/8 of a cup. We're going to add that to our infusion. This herbal infusion is done steeping. So now we're going to strain it. And because I used that thyme powder, I actually added some cheesecloth to the bottom to kind of help. Now this looks like it's dirty, but I promise it's not. I reuse mine, I wash it, so I'm just gonna swirl this a little bit to kind of get that thyme powder, and then just gonna pour that in there. Get all this drained out and get our lovely infusion back in the pot, and we'll add some honey to it. Just want to squeeze this out. We want make sure your hands are clean, of course, when you do anything like this. And we just want to squeeze out as much liquid as we can. We want all the goodness of that herbal infusion. And then the rest of this we will compost. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is compost. We're gonna put that in the chicken bowl, and now we have our lovely infusion to add honey to. So this is going to go back in the pot. I have cleaned out the pot to make sure there's no herbs in it. So our infusion is just going to go back in here, and then I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. I don't want it very hot, I just want it warm, and we're going to add the honey, and that way it all mixes together well. So this is honey from my bees. Well, the last time I had bees, and so I'm going to be using that. I had to get out another jar, and the great thing about this is I can tell how much is on the side because these have measurements on them. So this one is almost up to 2 cups. I'm just going to add a little bit to it so that I have the 2 cups. Now again, you don't have to add the 2 cups, but if you don't add the 2 cups, of course that changes how long this cough syrup will last. So if you add the least amount recommended, that is 1/2 cup, and that means that your herbal infusion, your cough syrup will only last for about 6 weeks. So it'll only last about 3 weeks, not 6 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, so there we have 2 cups. Made a mess of this jar. And now we're going to add 2 cups of the honey, which, gosh, that is a lot. But if I only add 1/2 cup, all right, let's just go ahead. It'll be good for a year, and honey is really good for you. It's microbial, which is really good for you, especially if you can find it local. That's even better. That is some thick honey. So we're just going to warm this up so that it all incorporates really well. So you can see here why we want to heat this up a little bit. You can see that this is not mixing right now. So once this is warmed up just a little bit, we want to keep it below 110 degrees. But once this is heated up, it will liquefy more. And of course, we'll mix with this herbal infusion better. And then we can store it in our container. I don't know if you can see it, but I can feel the difference already. And it's just heated up a little bit, so not much longer. All right, I think this is ready. It's nice and liquidy, so we're going to transfer this to our container. So what I have are these dark color, these are amber glass jars. I believe these are 16-ounce jars, so this all is probably not going to fit in here. I will have to put it in another container as well. And I have this stainless steel funnel. Now you just want to make sure that everything is clean, sanitized. I use my dishwasher. If you don't have that, then just be sure to wash it really good and use that. So we're just going to add this to this and label it, and then we're going to be done. So let's see how big of a mess I can make pouring this in here. It's hopefully not too big because I don't want to like waste any of this. All of this is probably not going to fit because I do have 2 cups of honey and then the cup of water. So it's not all going to fit in here, but most of it. Okay, that looks about it. And then I'm just going to put this in a smaller jar and get it labeled as well. While the dark colored glass is the best option because it does keep the light out and does last longer, you can use just glass. And these I got from the Dollar Tree, which are, you know, they're really cool looking. So we're going to use this, and this will be what we use first. So I'll know to use this one first, and then we'll use the other one after. Just kind of cool looking, right? All right, let's get these labeled so we don't forget what they are. So I just use these brown, these are actually printer labels I could use, but I just write on them and then I use them on my jars. I like this color better than the white, but either one is fine. You could use tape, whatever you have on hand. So I'm just gonna put each one of these on here. I did put the date I made them, and I also put the date that they expire, so I don't forget that. So we're just gonna go ahead and get these on our jars. And then these will go in the fridge and they will be good for about a year. So that's exciting. One thing I did forget to put on the label was the dosing. So for adults, it's 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon as needed. So depending on your weight, like a child would depend on the weight. So if you go off of a 150-pound adult, which is what the dosage is usually based off of, then you want to take that, divide by the child's weight, and then that will give you approximate dosing for a child. Now, of course, this recipe cannot be used for a child under the age of 1 because it does have honey in it. So if you wanted to make this cough syrup for like a child under the age of 1, I would use maple syrup. That's what I've done before in some of my other things, like elderberry syrup has maple syrup in it instead of the honey. Do probably need to keep an area in the fridge where you keep all this. I have some elderberry syrup in there and some garlic honey. So having a spot in your refrigerator where all this goes would be a great idea. I'm going to be working on that because I do have elderberry syrup, like I said, and the garlic honey in the fridge. So this is going to go in there as well. So I need to have a spot where all that is so that if anybody needs to find it, they know where to look for it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, using up some spices in your kitchen cabinet, in your kitchen spice cabinet. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to be lovely lights today.